Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rookon here coming at you with another video. Today we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy XIV, and in particular a topic that I think is going to be of some importance to a lot of people, because there's a lot of people moving over from World of Warcraft, considering the decisions that Blizzard has made and all that stuff. We're not here to talk about that. It's just there's a lot of people that are new to the game, and the reputation that Final Fantasy XIV has is that its beginning is rather rough. So you might feel tempted to go into the game shop and buy yourself skip potions. For starters, I believe that you would have to get like 2 of them, and you would only be able to level up 1 job. So there are limitations to what you can skip and all that, and I'm not exactly sure how much you can skip, but basically one of the arguments that is usually put forth is whether or not you should skip the content of the base game, which is A Realm Reborn. Now, to set the stage here a little bit, I played through the entirety of A Realm Reborn, and I've done all of the post-A Realm Reborn content as well. I've experienced the entirety of the story of A Realm Reborn. On top of that, I also went back, and I was lucky enough to have people to help me out so that I could do Girls of Bahamut, which is one of the raids, as well as Crystal Tower. Crystal Tower is a lot easier to do even if you're solo. So I would definitely advise you guys to do that if you do end up playing through A Realm Reborn. But naturally, the question still remains whether or not this content should be skipped. And one of the things that I feel I need to address is why people even discuss this. Like, is it because the story is no good? Is it the weakest of stories when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV? And in my opinion, I don't think that the story is bad. I think the biggest problem that you have in A Realm Reborn, like I believe I've mentioned in a previous video, and now I have the context of all the post-Realm Reborn quests, basically the quests that connect the expansions. And it's like the story is not only not bad, I think the story is actually really good. This is, again, my opinion. Some people might like it more, some people might not like it. The biggest issue with all of these quests has nothing to do with the story. I mean, in the Realm Reborn stuff, there are some bits where they completely deviate from the story and they go after some filler stuff before they give you the next really big story beat. But the stuff that happens after the campaign of A Realm Reborn, which people call like the worst part of Final Fantasy XIV, those quests actually don't have that much filler content per se. They have some filler, but not as much as you have during the regular campaign. What they do have is, it's not filler in terms of story, it is filler in terms of the stuff that they have you do with some of those quests. Some of those quests are quite simply not super interesting. It's like, go over here, talk to this dude, go over there, talk to that dude, go over there, a little bit of exposition, go over there, talk to this person. And not a lot of it is voice acted. There are some bits that are voice acted, but a big majority of those quests is not voice acted, so you're going to have to read a lot. And in my case, it's not just reading the quest, because I did all of this in a live stream. So basically, I had to read out loud every single text that showed up throughout all of those quests, which is one of the reasons why my voice might even sound a little bit tired. It's because I've been reading a lot of quests in Final Fantasy XIV. Wow, a lot of people making noise near me. But anyway, the point of this is, yes, you can skip. I personally don't think you should. Okay? And, it's going to depend from person to person whether you should skip or not. And I remember that in my previous video, I said that there's a friend of mine that I probably would get him like the skip potion so that he wouldn't have to go through it. After having experienced the entirety of it, I would actually not do that. Because skipping through A Realm Reborn, you are depriving yourself of the basis of a great story. And not only that, but a lot of the things that then take place in Heavensward are not going to make that much sense to you. They quite simply are not going to make that much sense to you, because the story of each expansion, even though each of them has like their own kind of like self-contained story from my understanding, at the end of the day, it's not super self-contained. It's a continuous story that happens throughout the entirety of the game, which is why there's one MSQ that you follow through the entirety of the game. It's not like, this is not like World of Warcraft where you can, I'll level up in this zone, then move on to the other zone, then move on to the next, and so on and so forth. No. In here, you follow this constant narrative thread. And yes, in A Realm Reborn, there is filler. It's not perfect. And I've heard some people say that it's going to be improved in coming patches and whatnot. But it is far from perfect, the narrative itself. But it is a fantastic story. And you're going to need it going into Heavensward to truly understand why so many players care about the characters that they care about, why your character is taking chances, rescuing other characters that you've never even heard of, because you won't know who Ralban is, for instance. You'll have no idea, why do I have to go back and save this guy? Like, I've never heard of him before, You won't know like why the leaders of each city act the way that they do, because you're not going to have the background. You won't know why people say certain things about your character. You won't even know the events of the ending of A Realm Reborn, which are especially important. The ending of A Realm Reborn has so many twists and turns and so much crazy stuff that happens that basically it's worth it. It's worth it to go through it. And now I know what a lot of you are going to think. A lot of you are going to be like, oh, but I want to get the Shadowbringers because that's the only thing that matters. That's the only content that matters. And from my experience with Final Fantasy XIV, I don't think that is the case. Because the story here is actually worth following through. It's actually worth playing through and experiencing. And when I started playing A Realm Reborn, and my initial thought was just like, I gotta get the 70, gotta get the Shadowbringers, gotta boom, 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 go, 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 just go, just level up as fast as possible, go through the MSQ, do all of this stuff. And the more I got enveloped in the story, the more I was like, you know what, I'm not in a hurry. I got time. I can experience the story at my own pace and just slowly go through it, soak it up, read all of the flavor text that shows up, and just really experience it. Which is something that, again, I don't think I've done before in previous MMOs. Every MMO that I've played has always been like, just like, whatever. You want me to do what? Yeah, go kill 10 boars over there? Sure thing, whatever. I don't even read quests. I didn't used to do nothing like that. And as a matter of fact, that's probably one of the reasons why I dropped off the first time that I tried playing Final Fantasy XIV, because I played it like that. The very first time, the very first character that I've made in Final Fantasy XIV, I was just like, boom, get the quest, do the quest, get the quest, do the quest, just keep it going, just keep it going. And this time around, actually reading through the story and understanding the politics behind everything that is happening in the world has given me a much greater context. And I think skipping through that, players are doing themselves a great disservice. They're basically paying money to skip through content to eventually get to the end game grind, which I think most people that have played an MMORPG will understand that the end game grind, sure, it's cool, hanging out with your friends, doing the raids, doing all that stuff, but it is also when you reach that stalemate, when you're just kind of like waiting for the next patch of content to come out and you're just grinding through gear. And I feel that Final Fantasy XIV has done a really good job of providing players with more than that as you are doing the main scenario quest and as you are advancing through the world. And again, just I feel that skipping through it is a disservice. Having said that, if you want to skip through it, I mean, it is a free world. This is just me giving you my opinion after having played through the entirety of A Realm Reborn, and now I'm coming into Heavensward. I've completed the first area of Heavensward, and I've advanced some more in there. And I wanted to get the context of Heavensward before I made this video, so that I knew, like, well, I mean, if people are going to skip through A Realm Reborn, is Heavensward still going to be worth it for them? And I still think that the story of Heavensward can still be really good, but you are going to miss out on a lot. And that, I feel, is what a lot of people usually don't. At least I haven't seen a lot of videos where people actually address this, when they're saying, oh no, the ARR quests, they're terrible, and you should just skip them, and all of this stuff. And in a lot of ways, this is not saying that those people are wrong. A lot of the quests in A Realm Reborn, they are tedious. But the story that they present still makes up for it. It is still, there's just a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of really interesting things. And I think one of the really important things, because I've always heard people refer to Coils of Bahamut as kind of like optional content. And I would actually say like you gotta try everything you can to do Coils of Bahamut to experience. It's not the raid itself, because the raid itself in terms of structure, I actually found that it was really weird, because you have to go through like 13 different raids, and they're really short. It's almost like 13 trials in a lot of ways, but they're a little bit longer than a regular trial. For those of you that don't know, trials is like one boss encounters that you have in Final Fantasy XIV. They're called trials. But the story reveals that you get during Coils of Bahamut, I would say they're potentially some of the most important story reveals in A Realm Reborn. And it's like, if you can't do Coils of Bahamut and you're following the story of the game and all of this stuff, then eventually at least go watch a YouTube video on the story of Bahamut or something like that, or the story of the Coils of Bahamut or something like that, because that storyline thread was particularly important for me to understand a lot of the things that were happening in the world. And if you've been playing Final Fantasy XIV and if you've skipped Coils of Bahamut until now, you should definitely go check that out. You should definitely see what that story is about, because that was very important. Crystal Tower is apparently also going to be important for Shadowbringers. A lot of people have told me. I've gotten a lot of lore out of the Crystal Tower. I wouldn't say it was the most appealing lore, because I haven't really seen the payoff yet in the future expansions. But it was an interesting quest line all the same. And then there's also another quest that I would highly advise people to check out, which is the Hildebrand quest. It starts in Ul'dah. I'm not sure what level you got to be able to get it, but it is one of those quests that is marked with blue and a plus sign. So it should be fairly easy to identify, because you'll be doing most of those quests as you play through the game anyways to unlock all of the features and stuff. So the Hildebrand quest is definitely one that I would advise people to go through. I haven't finished it yet. I've done 3 story arcs of Hildebrand quest, but yeah. Let's just say that is one of the quest lines that you will not want to miss out on. Oh yeah, people probably don't know what the name of it is. It is something about a gentleman. Gentleman something. Probably someone in chat will tell you the name, and it will show up beneath my face cam here. But yeah, those are a very important quest line that you should check out as well. But the good part about that quest line is that if you want to advance into Heavensward in the next expansions, you don't have to do it all in one go. Just like do as much as you want out of Hildebrand. But it's a good thing to like take a break from the regular leveling and main scenario quests where everything is super serious. Hildebrand is not that serious, and it's actually very interesting, entertaining, and highly original. It's unlike anything that I've seen before in an MMO. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, I guess those are pretty much my thoughts on whether or not you should skip A Realm Reborn. I definitely think that you shouldn't. Skipping through it, you are. And I realize that it is tedious and it is all of this, but I think that if you are a new player and you're coming into Final Fantasy XIV, don't be in a rush to jump to endgame content. That would be one of my biggest advices. Don't rush through it. Just enjoy it. And I realize that I have a little bit of streamer privilege when it comes to this, because I have a lot of people that hang out on my stream and they're constantly telling me stuff about the game. I'm constantly learning new things and stuff, you know, potentially even filtering out some of the quests that I should or shouldn't do. But it's fairly easy for pretty much any player to, you know, figure out their own path through this and just look up stuff that they don't want to do. And on top of that, one more thing, you should look up the story of Final Fantasy XIV 1.0. There are videos on YouTube that do a very good summary of it. I don't remember the video that I watched. It was like this 28-minute video. That video was fantastic. It tells you, it gives you so much more context on top of the stuff that you already get with A Realm Reborn that really fleshes out a lot of the characters in the game, including a lot of the villains in the game get much more fleshed out with the 1.0 storyline, as well as a lot of the characters that you interact with. And it was a very important video for me to understand the context of stuff, and then naturally linking into the Coils of Bahamut. It's just, I've just been really blown away over the past couple of days with the story. And, you know, maybe that's not for everyone. Maybe some people just want to do the rating stuff, and if that's what you want to do, then go right ahead. But I guess another point is, if you are going to skip through A Realm Reborn, you might as well skip through as much of the content as you possibly can to go to the end game. Because if you're skipping it to get the end game, it's probably not worth it for you to do any of the expansions. Just go right through, go do your raids, go do whatever. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying, like, if that's what you want to do, if you're an end game raider and all you care is about the latest and greatest content and to do all of that stuff, if you're going to skip, I would advise don't just skip A Realm Reborn. Skip everything, because you're going to get into Heavensward. You're not going to understand the story anyways. A lot of the plot points are going to be like, why does this matter? Why do I care? All this stuff, you know? Even though the quests are much better in Heavensward. Hands down. No questions asked. The quests are better. They're not as tedious. They make more sense. So far, there hasn't been any filler at all. It's fantastic in terms of that stuff. But again, the story is still linked to A Realm Reborn. So if you don't know the backstory of Realm Reborn, you know, and you can watch videos on A Realm Reborn and all that, I still feel that you're not going to connect to the characters as well if you just watch the video. And some of you will say, well, then why haven't you played 1.0? Because you can't play 1.0 anymore, otherwise I would. But yeah, that is pretty much my thoughts on that. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section. All of that stuff. Thank you all very much for watching. As per usual, remember, hit the like button if you enjoyed it, subscribe, all of that usual stuff. I'm looking forward to see what you guys have to say about this. See you guys on the next one. Stay strong, and may your shields never break.